do the question. Okay, for the people, I'm Mr. Durst, D-U-R-S-T. We have a witness and a court. Tom will be Mr. McCarthy, M-C-C-A-R-T-H-Y. Okay, so we'll start there with the question right before minute 11, and we're going to go to the end doing threes. Okay, so 150 for about 15 minutes. Okay, ready? Begin. Have you instructed your employees as to whether or not they should serve anyone who appears to be intoxicated?
Many, many times.
It is against the law.
It is against the law.
We assume that they have.
It is a silly question.
I don't believe I have any further questions of this witness at this time.
I have none at this time.
You may step down.
Thank you.
In view of the fact that the testimony was that Mr. Mel Thompson was the managing agent, I will call him under 776. I believe he is in the courtroom.
Mr. Thompson, state your name, please.
Melvin Leslie Thompson.
Spell your middle name
L-E-S-L-I-E.
and your last name.
T-H-O-M-P-S-O-N.
Mr. Thompson, you were in the courtroom when Mr. Blackburn testified a few minutes ago.
Yes.
I take it you were present on February 17, 2004 at about 1:30 a.m. when the events occurred which resulted in a shooting, is that right?
I was.
Where were you at the time the shooting took place?
I was in the lightning room.
Whereabouts in the lightning room?
I was playing the piano at the piano bar.
Now, did you observe Robert Keith Gingras, that's the gentleman who was shot, before the shooting?
Yes.
Had you noticed a gun at all on the premises?
No.
Did you ever have any conversation with Mr. McCarthy about the possession of a gun on the premises?
No.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
Did you ever have any conversation with the police in regard to a gun on the premises before this shooting happened on this occasion?
No.
Do you recall a police investigation in regard to a stolen firearm which was allegedly sold on the premises about a couple of months beforehand, before this occasion?
No.
Did Mr. McCarthy ever tell you that he brought a gun every weekend to the premises?
No.
Did Mr. McCarthy ever tell you that he would shoot a gun off on the weekend or during his days off?
No.
Who was the bartender before 4 p.m. at the lightning room at this time?
What was it? Pardon?
That day I couldn't remember.
Counsel, who was the bartender before 4 p.m. at this time?
Oh,
I couldn't remember that long back.
Do you happen to remember the name of the bartender at the Gilded Cage at this time?
No, I'd have to look that up too.
Were you on the premises at 4 p.m. on February 16th? That would be the...
If you are going to whisper to him, why don't you sit up here by him so we don't have you popping up and down?
Your Honor, I would like to know what the situation is, if Mr. Maloney is going to assist.
I don't know what Mr. Maloney's connection is, but I know he is whispering to Mr. Durst every once in a while. He jumps
Well,
up.
he will keep quiet.
Mr. Maloney, are you going to be associated with Mr. Durst?
Mr. Maloney is in my office. We are in the same building.
Well, is he going to be associated with you as counsel in this case?
I don't know. I don't believe so at this time, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Maloney, unless you are with him, why, I think it would be better if you didn't participate.
What time did you come on duty, or at least when did you first come into the lightning room on the day? I am talking about February 16th now.
In the daytime?
Yes, on this particular day, February 16th, 2004. When did you first come to the lightning room?
Well, I don't know. I could give you approximately at 2 o'clock, somewheres between 1 and 2. Unless I go to the bank first, and then it's around 3.
This would be, as I understand, on a Sunday. The 16th was a Sunday.
The 16th was a Sunday. Well, I don't know. I don't remember.
Do you recall whether you were physically at the premises when Mr. McCarthy arrived?
On his shift?
Yes.
I don't remember that.
How about the day before? That would be Saturday the 15th.
I don't know.
When Mr. McCarthy would come to work, would he ever bring any packages or bundles or anything like that?
No, not to my knowledge. Well, sometimes everybody brings something to work with them.
Do you recall particularly on the 15th or 16th of February 2004, whether you recall him bringing anything to work?
No, I don't.
Did you have any particular assigned duties in respect to disturbances on the premises, what you were to do if there was a disturbance on the premises?
Well, yes, if there was a disturbance on the premises and I was playing, I instructed the waitress to call the police because there is no phone behind the bar to call out on so the bartender can. If she was busy and I wasn't, I'd call the police.
Were you instructed to do anything further, ask anybody to leave, or anything along that line?
No, the bartender always asked them to leave because unless I was usually at the piano bar and I wouldn't have heard about the disturbance until after he had asked them to leave, usually.
Were there any specific instructions to your knowledge as to what happened, if anything, if a customer found himself behind the bar? In other words, in the bartender's domain, so to speak.
This is the first time I have ever seen a customer behind the bar, so I don't know.
By the way, is this what you would call, I suppose, a closed bar? In other words, it is completely locked into the wall with maybe a lift?
There is no lift.
Is there an open end?
An opening that you can get out?
In other words, a customer can walk into the open end?
No, you have to duck underneath the bar.
The bar extends to the wall, but there is an opening underneath?
A wall on both ends, yeah.
On that evening, in other words, in the evening of February 16th, 2004, had there been any other disturbances than the one that happened on the 17th at 1:30?
Not to my knowledge.
Have you ever been present when there have been disturbances at the Lightning Room?
Yes.
When Mr. McCarthy has been on duty?
Yes.
Do you have a specific recollection of such a disturbance immediately prior to February 17th, 2004?
No, I don't have a specific recollection.
Would you describe the Lightning Room as sort of a Skid Row type of bar?
What was that?
I object to that as calling for a conclusion.
Yes, it will be sustained. It means nothing because I don't know what a Skid Row type of bar is.
Are there often disturbances, or were there often disturbances at the Lightning Room at about this time?
No.
Were there occasions when the police would actually be summoned
Yes.
to quell a disturbance?
Yes.
Now, immediately before February 17, 2004, at about 1:30, do you recall an occasion when the police were summoned to quell a bar when Mr. McCarthy was on duty?
Well, a what?
I mean a disturbance. To quell a disturbance when Mr. McCarthy was on duty.
They may have been. I don't remember specifically.
Well, do you have a specific recollection of any instance where Mr. McCarthy had anything to do with a disturbance? In other words, he was on duty, and there was a disturbance going on by some customer, patron, or anybody else for that matter.
No, I don't have any. I can't recall.
On February 17, 2004, just immediately before this shooting, did you have occasion to observe what was going on before the shooting as regards to Mr. Gingras?
Well, just before the shooting?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
Did you see what happened?
Well, I don't know if I saw everything that happened, but I saw some things that happened.
What did you see?
I saw Mr. Gingras stand up on the footrest of the bar and put his two hands on the opposite side of the bar, closest to where the bartender's station would be, like this, and lean over the bar. And then I was playing the piano at this time, and then he jumped over or climbed over the bar, just vaulted over the bar.
Immediately after that, was there a shooting?
Yes,
A discharge of a pistol?
yes.
Do you recall how many times the pistol went off?
No, I don't.
Could it have been 8,
Could have been 8, could have been 4,
7?
7.
What did you see the decedent do after he had got over the bar, if you saw him do anything?
After he got over the bar,
Yes.
well, he stood there by just as if I was facing the bar. It would be just left of the cash register.
He didn't make any movement toward... Where was Mr. McCarthy at this time?
He was at the right of the cash register.
About how far in feet were they apart at that time?
Oh, maybe, I don't know, 6 feet maybe?
Did either of them move toward each other or away from each other
Not to my knowledge.
before the shooting?
No,
Did Mr. Gingras, the decedent, did he have anything in his hands that you noticed?
I don't know.
Did you notice where his hands were, the position?
I couldn't see his hands from where I was sitting. I was sitting at the piano bar and the...
Were the shots fired in rather rapid order?
Yes,
Would you say that the whole thing only took a few seconds from the time he jumped over the bar
Yes.
to the... Nothing further of this witness, Your Honor, at this time?
Let me see that a moment.
Could I ask him?
Sure.
You had seen Mr. Gingras before on several occasions, isn't that right?
yes I had.
He was a frequent customer?
No,
Or he was often in the bar?
not often. I had seen him several times before, maybe a dozen, 2 dozen times.
Would he always sit at the bar? Or would he sit at the piano bar?
Well, I don't remember where he sat, actually.
Could you estimate the number of times you had seen him in the bar before this occasion?
We have several other bars, and I had only seen him in that one bar. I had seen him in other places too.
Could it be as many as 6 times you had seen him in the bar?
Yes,
I mean, in the Lightning Room?
in the lightning room.
Nothing further.
Mr. Thompson, what did you hear said by anybody when Gingras jumped over the bar?
Someone hollered at the bartender to watch it, Mac, because he is over the bar.
Mac, is McCarthy the bartender?
Yes,
After the shooting, did McCarthy say anything to you?
yes, he asked me to call the police.
I have no further questions.
Did anybody call the police before the shooting?
Not that I know of.
Nothing further. I would reserve the right to recall him at a later time.
You may step down.
Your Honor, may I inquire at this time, when will we know as to whether the defendant can be advised of his rights today?
Well, I understand that Mr. Powell will be back at 3:30. We have asked him to come in at that time. If the file were out here, we could do it without his being here, but since it is downtown, I have got to have somebody from that office to find out what the situation is.
Yes. Could I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes?
Your Honor, I believe we have a stipulation. The fact that, correct me if I misstate it, that on February 17th, 2004, Mr. Robert Keith Gingras was a customer of the Lightning Room and was served a drink prior to the shooting at about 1:30 or a quarter.
We will stipulate to that, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I feel I have a procedural problem. I would like at this time to take Mr. McCarthy, continue with Mr. McCarthy. It seems to me to be appropriate to have his testimony at this particular time. I think that would be the conclusion of the liability end of the case. The only thing else would be to put the mother on the stand, to have her testify as to the damage aspect of it, at least as far as my case is concerned. I would prefer not to start that until after the liability end is completed if possible. I don't know.
Well, I don't think we should continue with Mr. McCarthy until the court has been advised by his counsel as to what the situation is. I
am not suggesting that it be otherwise, Your Honor. I wonder if maybe we could recess for 15 minutes, and if Mr. Powell shows...
We will take a recess and see if Mr. Powell shows up.
Thank you.